It's funny, actually, when we first did it, we emailed Protest the Hero. Can we ask you guys some questions or whatever? And they're just like, someone wrote back, I can't remember who, but it was like, absolutely. And then one of the funniest things they said was like, they did a pizza party thing where they were like, you know, and then they just said like, don't do anything like that where like fans come and hang out with you. Because they're like, it's so awkward and you feel so weird. And you're like, it's like you took their money to hang out with them. And it's just like kind of a strange experience. And we were like, okay, we won't do that.
Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians, talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. I hope you've had a killer weekend. I most certainly did. This Vox and Hops episode is presented by Heavy Montreal. Heavy Montreal are Montreal's premier metal promoter. And trust me when I say this, if you are ever in Montreal and you want to go see a killer metal show, Heavy Montreal will have you covered. I am beyond stoked to have Heavy Montreal behind the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I'd just like to ask you to follow the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast on the podcast platform of your choice. But more than that, I would love for you to tell a friend about the podcast. If there's someone in your life that just loves extreme music, in-depth conversations, and also loves craft beer, well, you should definitely let them know that the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast exists. If you would encourage one of your friends to become a brand new Vox and Hops head, that would be something that I would truly appreciate. Now, today on the podcast, I'm very stoked to be back with Dan Cleary of Stryker. Get ready, everyone. This is Vox and Hops episode number 458.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm very stoked to be back with Dan Cleary of Stryker, his third time on the podcast. Always a pleasure to hang out with a fellow Juno Award winner from Canada. I get to say that for the first time on the podcast. How you doing, Dan?
I'm good, man. It's nice to be up here at the top looking down at everybody else, you know?
Hell yes. I keep bringing it up. There, I wrote my first email today saying like, hey, I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy, the Juno Award-winning metal band from Canada. I literally did.
It's so funny. We had it on our Instagram for a while, and then I was like, you know what? Let's take that off, man. It's like
no one knows
like it's
what
been
it
up
is.
there for a year or two. It's probably like, yeah.
I think you keep it there for like a month or two, and then it's like all things that it comes to pass.
Yeah.
We're hanging out again. It makes me very happy. Your third time. The first time was I think it was one of my first interviews at Say Buck, which I ended up doing like, I want to say 50 to 60 other ones after that before the pandemic. Episode 46, we hung out. It was you were doing like a pre-show fest of Heavy Montreal or something, if my brain remembers correctly. Yeah. And then we hung out again when you guys dropped that beer right after the Juno, episode 246 back in March of 2021. Here we are again. You got a brand new album. Ultrapower came out February 2nd. We're going to talk a lot about that, but first, just a simple, how you doing? How has things been in the since the last time we hung out?
Good, man. I mean, what year was it the last time we did the last time we saw each other was that Winnipeg?
Manitoba Metal Fest.
Yeah, Manitoba Metal Festival, yeah.
Which got wild. It was Cryptopsy's first show. Not really. We did Brutal Montreal before that, but it was like our first out-of-town show with no family or wives around. So we let loose and we partied that weekend.
Yeah, because we ran into you the second night, I think, right?
Correct.
Like,
we just staged.
I think there was some stage diving going on,
which I never do.
So.
I lost my hat, and then we actually played this. You played the first night. We played the second night. Some dude showed up and he was like, right. "I found your hat," and I'm like, "Where is it?" He's like, "It's at home. It's mine now." And I'm like, "What do you mean?"
Thanks, bro.
So now, whenever I always get them through indie merch there, so I always order through Rob Schultz, and I'm Rob. Can you send me 2 more hats? Because I always have a backup now.
Nice.
Because
in case
of that.
You stage dive.
Just in case, which I never do very often. Vox and Hops, as you very well know, is all about hanging out with my metal friends, talking about their lives and music while drinking killer craft beers. What do you got on your side tonight, Dan?
I've got the Blindman 5 of Diamonds Pilsner.
Hell yes. I do not know Blindman. Is that from Edmonton?
That's an Alberta. I don't know if it's Edmonton or if it's just Lacombe, Alberta.
have no idea where that is, but it's in
small town Alberta. Yeah.
Well, that means the water's pure and the beer's going to be delicious.
Oh, it's probably absolutely full of oil.
You're probably right.
Hair on your chest.
You're probably right. On my side, despite the fact of me being completely sick of drinking European-style beers, I was walking in front of La Mer à Boire, which is one of my favorite places on Saint-Denis Street, which is really close to Saint-Buck, funny enough, where we did that first interview. Now I tend to gravitate towards their beers. Whenever I walk by there, I always pick up a 4-pack, so I did that today. This is their Rauchbier, a dark smoked beer, and despite the fact of me coming back from Europe and being completely over European-style beers and just wanting haze, which is just crazy, but it's the way I feel, and I'm going to be honest, I have this tonight. Cheers.
I didn't bring down a cup. Like
that's okay. That's okay. It doesn't fit your brand. You guys got koozies.
Oh, you know what I got? I should have brought that down too. I got a new tool that you, I don't know if you've seen these things. You put it on the top. It's like a can opener.
It just takes the whole top off.
It cuts the top off
without it making it sharp.
Yeah. Like it kind of cuts like the inside.
Nice. So the rim is still there.
And it's so sick for like tall boys and stuff. It's just like perfect.
I love it. We're leading perfectly into the next question, which is the craft beer evolution. How has your palate refined over the years since we chatted last? Are you still drinking as much? The persona of Stryker is a band that drinks a lot. How truthful is that? I tend to enjoy a lot of beers, and it's the truth. I do enjoy 1 or 2 beers every few days. It's a part of my personality, and it's a way that I relax, and I love it, and I can stop and go without days without any. How about you? Is it truthful to the brand? Do you really enjoy drinking that much?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I just did a dry March though, so it was just one of those things. I don't know. I always try and do that kind of thing, just like every now and then, just to make sure, you know.
It's like, do I really have a problem?
Is this an issue? And then no, it's like, yeah, it's totally cool. So
I do those sometimes too, and you know what I always find is I sleep so much better.
Yeah, every time I do it, I'm like, I don't really find there's a big difference.
Okay.
I don't know. So my baseline is just permanent, like, or whatever. I don't know.
Because when you drink, what happens is what I think happens, and any scientist that listens to this episode can correct me, as I feel like when you go to sleep drunk, let's say, you don't necessarily hit REM sleep as deep as you should.
Yeah, I've heard that, but I've also heard the body can synthesize like 150 different micronutrients or vitamins out of like, I think like a pool of like 10.
Oh.
So your body could probably figure it out.
I think we're doing good. Okay. You're giving me, I'll have another after this just in case.
Yeah, maybe don't quote me on that, but it's something like that. I remember reading
that's
it in
what I'm putting
book.
As the quote for the Don't quote me on that. It's going to be the quote. I love
Stryker's known for their scientific research, for sure.
So you won a Juno. I just won a Juno. What are the perks? I wrote you because I went to, as I was going to sleep, right before when we won, my father-in-law was like, Matt, you won some money. There's some money that comes with this. And I was like, I don't think there's any money in this. So I wrote you, and I'm like, what happens when is there money? What goes on here? And you're like, there's no money. What's funny is that when the whole nomination happened for Cryptopsy, my kids were like, you're going to win, and the trophy's going in our room.
Nice.
I'm pretty much a minimalist. I don't have much stuff in the house as it is there. So I was like, okay, whatever, you can put it in your room. So now that I've won, I've ordered it and it's going in the room, which is just hilarious. But
yeah, I mean, I felt like the biggest perk, it's obviously like a really great resume piece, right? Like in your music career, it's just something you can be like, oh yeah, like we're a real band. You know, like
we're recognized by our peers.
Yeah. Yeah, just tell everybody it's a Canadian Grammy and they're like, oh.
That is what I have been saying, and it works. What I did notice, and we spoke about this last time that I had you on the podcast, was that a lot of my family members, my extended family members, my aunts and uncles, wrote me or called me, and they were just so excited that, you know, and now they want to come to the shows.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was this little side hustle, and there's always that uncle that asks you, "So you're making any money doing this?" You know. But now they're more interested in coming to the shows, and I'm happy to have them come out. But there's this like a seal of validation that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You know, like you did something. You know, like people like from my high school wrote me and was like, "I can't believe I was in like a high school band with someone that's a Juno winner," basically. You know, like it's cool. Yeah. Then there's another side of the thing, and I spoke to my friend, a chef, that he's a very, very popular chef here in Montreal. And I was like, I feel like you're the only person that's going to understand what I'm going to say right now. And you'll understand this too, because I'm sure the same thing happened to you, is that people write you and they were like, "I can't tell you this, but I voted for you."
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like it sort of
like,
diminishes the acclimate when I know that my friends voted for me.
Yeah. Well, that's like Tim signed up, our guitar player. He signed up to be a Juno judge. I don't know if he actually did it this year, but
I just want to know. I hope that there's more than 10 people, because I got some people that wrote me, you know. I hope there's at least 100 judges or something.
Yeah. I really don't know the actual inner workings of it, but I know that you can become one.
I think so too, because I think that ask them. We know people very closely that hypothetically set up this conversation. That was one of them. So
yes.
If you know where I'm going with that, I'll probably cut that out.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So aside from that, there's the did you feel in the industry, did you start getting more, let's say, government grants? Did you start getting more booking opportunities? Were people taking the band more seriously outside of just our extended family and people that we went to high school?
You know, honestly, not really.
It's so sad.
I didn't see a noticeable change, really. You know, I think it would be like different if you won like a Grammy. That would be like that's, you know, in the US, that's like a whole different ball game for sure. But like, yeah, I don't know. I think maybe it's sort of greases the wheel with like people that, you know, you maybe want to work with, and you just slide that in and you're like, hey, you know, like,
by the way. But I feel like there's that timeline, as we mentioned with the Instagram caption there. I feel like we got to utilize this strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah, start sending every endorsement thing
exactly.
you've ever wanted.
That's exactly what we're thinking.
I need new in-ear monitors.
I literally did that today, and that's
yeah, perfect.
Literally today.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's probably the best thing you could do with it. Really, is like leverage it to, you know, help you keep doing your art, you know?
Yeah, more comfortably. And we had never actually submitted before. It's actually the first time that we submitted, and it was Christian Donaldson, our guitarist, that was obsessed with it, because I think he lost twice before with the Agonist. And against you guys, I think even, I feel like I could be wrong there. I think I'm right, but
maybe that might be from the same year.
Yeah. And Chris was like so adamant about, did you, like, for months before the submission process, because they like close submissions or open submissions in September and they close them in October. And we were on tour, and I was like with Nuclear Blast, and Charles was with us, and I was like, can you like submit for us, because Chris is obsessed. So finally he won, and he's happy. So he can get obsessed about something else now. Yeah,
there's a bunch of bands that I've always wondered, like, are they just not submitting for it?
I think that's what it is. I think some people just know. Yeah. We had never submitted, you know, for all the years, all the albums that I've been on, never submitted one. So pretty stoked.
I've always thought like bands like I don't think I've ever seen like Comeback Kid.
Yeah.
On there anywhere. It's just like,
but I do raise my glass to Danko Jones for his 6th nomination, and he still hasn't picked one up. Eventually,
oh no, really?
I was like convinced that he was going to get it just out of that factor.
Is that because of his other ones being like in the rock category?
Maybe. I don't know.
Because I assume the competition is steeper once you get into like
hard music,
not hard metal music, but like rock music or whatever, and then you've got like
bigger
Nickelback's
players
in there too, or whatever. And you're like,
just give it to Nickelback. But
yeah, it's like, yeah, they sold 1 billion albums, or whatever.
Just give it to them. It is true.
You know the drums are sampled, right?
The last time we saw each other was at Manitoba Metal Fest. We partied. I stage dove. I picked up a shirt, and my son wears it all the time because it's just the most perfect shirt for him, because it has like a fast race car on it and a giant T-Rex in space.
Yeah, it's like for kids.
No, but for I saw it at your merch booth and I was like, I'm taking it for my kid. He wears it all the time. I just wanted to tell you that.
That's awesome.
Ultrapower, independent yet again. Third release is independent. You must hate getting asked this question.
Fourth
Release. Look at you guys. Since 2016, been independent. We were independent from 2012 up until As Gamora Burns, where we jumped into Nuclear Blast. It was hard, and we tried the crowdfund thing for our tomes, and it wasn't a success. You guys, however, crushed it. So that's just congrats on that. It's pretty sick. You guys asked for $20,000. You guys got $31,000 from 300 some odd backers, which is you got some very supportive fans.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Had you crowdfunded the other albums before, or was this the first time?
Well, I mean, we kind of did in a roundabout way. It's kind of a weird thing because like we crowdfunded it, but all it was like a pre-order, basically.
Yeah.
So it's just like
it's the same thing, but just like presented differently.
Yeah. So, and I think it's interesting because we decided to use Kickstarter because I think people see it differently. Like they're like, oh, I'm helping the band. It's like, yeah, pre-order helps the band like a shitload, but like they don't maybe realize that. They're just like, oh, that's just like, I pre-order it and I get it or whatever, and the band doesn't benefit, extra in any way.
There's no opportunity to break even and more, hypothetically, on a pre-order, unless the volume is just so high, let's say.
Yeah, and like we did all the same kind of stuff, right? Like we had looked at, it's funny actually, when we first did it, we emailed Protest the Hero.
Oh yeah, because that's why we started ours, because they just crushed it.
Yeah, they did insane. And so I like emailed them and was like, can we ask you guys some questions or whatever? And they're just like, someone wrote back, I can't remember who, but was like, absolutely. And then one of the funniest things they said was like, they did a pizza party thing where they were like, and then they just said like, don't do anything like that where like fans come and hang out with you. Cause they're like, it's so awkward and you feel so weird. And you're like, it's like you took their money to hang out with them. And it's just like kind of a strange experience. So we were like, okay, we won't do that. But
you did a podcast interview that you added on where at least there's a screen between each other. You got you and the fans.
Yeah, we did the podcast one, which was really fun. I actually really enjoyed those. It was a lot of like interesting stuff. Everybody's interesting seeing like talking to fans and like understanding why they like our band. You know what I mean? Like it's like everyone's a little different. So, but so we did like a pre-order with all the perks. So we just like hosted it on our own website, and it was like, we did it all like that, and it was essentially the same. It didn't do nearly as much, probably about half of what we did with the Kickstarter. And then, we found that I think the Kickstarter is like that little bit of like, it's on display there. People can see the number and like, feel
be
there's
proud.
like
I feel like your message, because I like read the whole thing right before I sat down here. Your message was really well written. It was very clearly explained and tongue-in-cheek, fitting your brand, the way that you guys are so much fun, party, confident, because you were like, we've been doing this forever. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
There's no risk.
Well, it's like we already spent the money. It's like, either we sell the tour van or the Kickstarter happens, right? Like
you did spend the money because you went and did something completely different, and you went to a massive producer and Airbnb'd 6 weeks, working 6 days a week in the studio with Josh Schroeder, best known for Lorna Shore. He also did Signs of the Swarm. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I feel like I'm right. What was that experience like versus what you were doing before, the whole like living in the recording studio? Let's say it's that, but it wasn't that, but you basically were.
It was awesome, man. Like, so we've recorded with a few different producers in the past, and then for the last 3 independent ones, like when we were in the studio in Sweden with Fredrik Nordstrom, they were like, yeah, not everybody comes to the studio. A lot of people just send in their mix. And we were like, you can do that?
That was an option? I didn't have to spend 5,000 euros on plane tickets.
Yeah. we were like, oh, so you're telling me people record their own stuff at home and send it to you to mix? And they're like, yeah, like most people do that, except for like, bigger bands. Like the band right before us was Architects.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, cool. Like whatever, we'll come in here and do our little thing or whatever.
Well, that's sick. So it's interesting how you guys always end up going to not like a typical power metal producer. You always find yourselves dancing around with more modern style producers that will grasp this new production style with your sound.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been like a sucker for, I love the songwriting and the style of 80s music, 80s heavy metal, but I don't love the sound.
Interesting.
Like the sonic sound of it. It's like when you put on like I was playing like a Rigor Mortis album the other day, and then like the album ended and it switched over to like some new like 2024. It was like a Will Putney mix or something like that, and I was just like, it was like seeing color for the first time or whatever. I'm just like, damn, what a huge difference that is, right? Like, I mean, the songs are sick, but it's just like, man, it's so much.
It's like painting with less colors. You have a different toolbox to fix something, a different paint palette collection.
Oh yeah, we just always been sort of interested in having like the most modern sound we can.
Which works. It sounds killer. Josh is obviously fantastic. You decided to go there. You took the leap. You took that massive investment. Working with someone of that caliber costs a lot of money. Taking 6 weeks off from your job costs a lot of money. Traveling there, the Airbnb, everything's expensive. You bite this bullet. Talk to me about that experience. I know for myself, for the As Gomorrah Burns, I went to Chris's house and I lived there for a week to record my vocals, and it really changed my perspective of working in the studio, of my relationship with that album versus just finding holes in my busy schedule and going to the studio to smash out a song here or there over a period of time. Was that the same for you, where you're just immersed in something? Do you feel like this album is different because of that?
Yeah, I think so, for sure. I mean, like, we were like super prepared, like to a fault probably, because we went in and I like sent Josh we had like a Google Doc thing with like, it was like a spreadsheet with all the song demos and like the tempos and everything. Is super organized. He's like, nobody does this. And I was like, oh, really? Okay. And, but I think that freed us up to just like spend more time experimenting and trying different things. And it was really fun working with Josh, because he's sort of like throw it at the wall and see what sticks kind of guy. Like, he's not really a stickler for any rules or anything like that. He's like, yeah, let's make it sound fucked, right? Like, he's like, turn the bass up till it clips, like, who cares, right? And I was like, yeah, I like that, as long as the end product doesn't sound bad. Like, of course, it's super cool to like work with someone who's a little bit more creative than maybe a little bit too like I found on our Play to Win album, we were really obsessed with like, let's make everything kind of like perfect. Let's make the drums got to be like, everything's perfect, quantized, and everything's, whatever. Which
takes away a bit of the personality of the humans playing it.
And I mean, down to the like, one of the biggest things is the pick chirp. So if you're a guitar player and you don't want your life to be ruined, just skip this part. But there's a sound certain guitar picks make. It makes, especially if you're like tremolo picking a part, there'll be a high-pitched little chirp that's on every pick attack that you don't really notice until you hear it, and then you can never unhear it. and so Tim is like, very much a perfectionist in terms of this type of thing. So he's like, I have to redo this part. There's a pick chirp. And it was driving Josh like insane. He's like, nobody's going to know this. And then after a while, Josh was just like, I can't stop hearing
the pick chirp.
He's like, God damn it. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, there was definitely a fine line between like what we were used to doing and then having Josh just be like, bro, no one cares. Like, no one's going to even listen to this part, right? Like, it's like there's vocals on it. No one's listening to that part, right? Or whatever. So
That's reassuring.
yeah, it was nice to have someone like a voice of reason be like, don't worry about that stuff. And I mean, I think that's in the back of our minds, but it's nice to have someone be like,
it's good enough. Stop. Yeah. That's why we have Chris in the band, and whenever Chris says it's good, I have this like weight of like, it's good, because he's the ultra hater. So
yeah,
he really is. So, how was it like being there while everyone's doing everything? Is that something that you always did? Were you always in the studio while other people were tracking? I have been there for certain people. There's been albums where I've missed everyone's stuff except for my own. What kind of relationship do you have with your other bandmates in the studio?
yeah, I was there every day.
I imagine on this one,
much.
But previous ones.
Yeah. Previously, I did a lot of the engineering on the previous ones, so
you had no choice.
yeah. It's just like, I have Pro Tools. I'm the one doing it, right? So whatever. I mean, these days, I think we could probably get away with like each person recording like remotely if we really wanted to. But yeah, Play to Win 2018. It's quite a long time ago, so we've learned a lot since then. But
everything changes so quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, and then you get used to like by the time you're finished recording an album,
you hate it. Yeah.
It's like, oh, I already and then you're just like, wow, I'm better at doing whatever this thing is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like for example, I'm good at taping vinyl mailers shut now.
Good for you. Yeah.
Another perk
how many,
of being
how many thousands of those
band.
did you do? God
Too
damn,
many, man. I just took one to the. I'm sorry to whoever I shipped this to, but I took one to the mailbox and put it in, and there was too much shit in there. So when it went in and I closed the thing, it was just like jammed, and I had to go in and be like, "Yo, it's jammed in there." And the lady's just like, "The guy doesn't come till 5 o'clock. That's on him." And I was just like, "Fuck." I hope that's not a destroyed vinyl in there now. It's like, damn it.
God
so
damn it. I like the fun aspect of Stryker. It's always been fun, but I feel like you guys have like really turned it up to 11 in the past few albums. Really on this one, just the big 80s. It's a big 80s fuck fest of, but like fun, but not too macho, more like tongue in cheek. What is your love affair with the 80s aside from just that's the music that you grew up loving? Despite its production.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it's like, it's maybe that I love like 80s America.
That's the feel that I get. The big the red
like,
fast cars in that video.
Yeah. I've always loved like, obviously like 80s action movies and stuff like that. And, I've always loved, for whatever reason, like the inspirational songs, like like Eye of the Tiger, or like
all the montage songs.
Yeah, montage music, basically.
In your heart.
Yeah, exactly. That's from Break the Ice or whatever. No, the movie Rad.
Yes, I love that. Yeah.
That's a wicked soundtrack. Great singer on that too.
Yeah, there's another one too. Send me an angel. That's on the bike. Yes, on the BMX one there. I think that's Rad too. I think it is. Yeah.
Could be. Yeah.
Gunship covered that. That's pretty good.
That's a sick one. Yeah, that's funny how many people know that.
Yeah.
That soundtrack.
But it's great. That's why.
It's funny. I had like an absolute like blast from the past. Like, you ever have something you're like, I totally forgot about this. Yeah. Something from your childhood. And you're just like, bam, it just hits you, and you're like, what is that?
And I have to find it
for a long time.
I have to find it, yeah.
Yeah, there's this old BMX video that I found. There's no like famous songs on it or anything, but it's full of like everything that I like. It's just like skateboards with like, the old school skateboards where they're all skating in the bowl and stuff. And then it's like BMX dudes doing like handstands and shit like that, wearing like, pink shoes and shit. Like it's like I'm like, is this why? Because I watched that video like a million times.
It's like ingrained in your personality.
Like,
it's because our parents let us watch whatever the fuck we wanted.
Yeah,
very unsupervised television.
Yeah, They should have been showing me like what's it like Grey's Anatomy or something, and I'd been a doctor. But I was watching that BMX video.
Hey, come on! You in that BMX video alone is the next 5-6 Striker videos.
Oh yeah,
There's content.
maybe I'll just like. It's probably no copyright stuff on it. Maybe I'll just put it out as a music video. Just like
That is
put our
not a
music
bad
over
idea.
top of it. Yeah. And if the person comes and says, "Hey, you shouldn't use this," we'll take it down. But they probably are dead, honestly.
Writing hooks, something that I do but differently, more gnarly. For yourself, how do you go about writing these hooks? Because they're catchy as hell. You mentioned that you liked these catchy theme songs. Suck to Suck was what was it? What's one of the there's Don't Be a Suck of Sucking. What was one of your songs? The wrestling one.
Oh, Sucks to Suck.
Sucks to Suck. You know, so you come up with. Do you come up with these titles first and then create like a super catchy mantra chant chorus, or does it work the other way around sometimes?
Yeah, that one was an interesting one because we wrote that like I think it was like 2020 when we were writing music. We were just like screwing around in my basement, me and a couple of other guys. And originally that song was about a vasectomy. And it was like instead of the lyrics are, "What does that make me? We'll see." The original lyrics were, "What does that make me? Kid free." So
Did one of you guys just get a vasectomy? Is that where this all came from? Or
yeah. Actually, two guys in the band have
very
them.
responsible.
But yeah, like I woke up. It was like 2 years later. I woke up out of bed and was like, I had it stuck in my head. I was like, that's got to be a good sign. So I like revisited it, rewrote some stuff, tried to make it make more sense. I was like, what makes sense with these lyrics? Because Sucks to Suck was in there just as a joke, right? Like it was,
But it works.
sort of
It's
making
catchy as
fun
hell.
of- It's making fun of getting a vasectomy, right? It's me making fun of one of the guys in our band for getting a vasectomy.
And these are just like placeholder lyrics in your basement, drinking beer during the pandemic, just fucking around.
Yeah, but and interestingly enough, I've found that in the past when I changed lyrics that were like a joke and then put them as something else, they weren't as good. But I like committed to them and I was like, yeah, it can't be that other thing, right? Because the other thing doesn't make sense.
It'll get us canceled.
And so who knows, right? Like, but in this, for this one, I was like, yeah, let's just keep it. We'll figure out how to write lyrics around that. And yeah, it ended up being like, just a silly song, but it was born out of the vasectomy song.
I think it's awesome. I think that it's freeing how much you guys get to have fun. I have fun, but Cryptops is extremely serious.
Brutal.
Thematically and vibe-wise. You guys get to have a lot more fun. You guys can wear whatever you want that falls into the 80s thematic and write songs like Sucks to Suck. It's fun. It's freeing. It's cool.
You know what's so funny about that? Do you know the band Alpha Wolf?
Yes.
They released a song literally 2 weeks before we put out Sucks to Suck. They released a song called Sucks to Suck.
No.
I was like, how, bro? That's insane.
They're like, it's about a vasectomy.
Yeah, like, I'd be like, what the hell? I'm sure it's not. But like,
God
it's
damn.
just like, I was like, how? But they used the letter 2.
Oh,
the
two,
number 2.
sorry.
The letter 2.
Yeah.
The number 2.
Thanks, Mom and Dad, for letting me watch that skate video.
Yeah. Yeah, but I was just like, oh man, that's funny.
Wow, what a weird small world we live in. That's crazy.
Striker tour with Alpha Wolf incoming.
You should do it. Call it Sucks to Suck.
yeah, the Sucks to Suck tour.
The wrestling. As I've gotten older, I find myself falling back into love with wrestling. Being a kid of the 80s, you had no choice but to be a huge wrestling fan because it was everywhere. It was modern culture, pop culture at that point. Hulk Hogan was everywhere. The Ultimate Warrior, all this stuff. So here you got perfect another universe, another peel of the Striker 80s factor. A wrestling video for Sucks to Suck. Are you a wrestling fan? How did this come together? It was Top Talent Wrestling that was in your video. Talk to me about wrestling in Edmonton. What's going on with wrestling in your life?
Yeah, I mean, like, pretty similar to you in that, like, you know, when I was a kid, I watched a lot of wrestling and obviously played, you know, all the video games and everything. And then eventually was just like, well, I don't really watch it anymore. I'm not keeping up with what's going on. But we have some friends who are into the like the local wrestling scene, and they were always saying like, you guys should come out and check it out. And then we eventually went, and then it was Pete who got bit by the bug, right? He was like, this is so sick, we should do a wrestling video. And we were like we're getting pretty old, man, I don't know about doing a wrestling video. Yeah. And he was like, he set it all up, and so we were like, okay, let's do it. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. It hurt like crazy. So what we had to do was, like, the deal was we have to come for the 3-day like crash course. You got to take a bump. Got to take a bump. And so we learned that, and it's funny because, like, the first day we get in there, he's like, okay, like, just fall on your back. And I'm like, what? Like, really? He's like, yeah, you just do this, right? Like, and there were a couple other people there, and they did it. They did theirs like so easy, and then it was our turn, and it was sort of just like, it's now or never, bro. You're on the mat doing the bumps. I did like a front flip bump, like it was on day one, and we're just like, wow, this is like insane. I never thought I would be doing this kind of thing, but if you get enough pressure, you can do it. A second career, hypothetically. Yeah. You're gonna be a wrestler. Yeah, and then we shot it, and boy, did that hurt. It was brutal. Like, some of the slams, like the one that Simon takes, that like just destroyed him. He was like out of commission after that. It was like real stuff. No fakery involved. It was just bodies hitting the ground. And then the cameraman's like, we missed it, you got to do it again. Yeah. Well, I mean, there was a few where I was like, if we're doing this one, this is it. Make sure it's in focus, because I'm not doing this one again. Like, yeah. Goddamn. Yeah, it was really fun. Like, Pete is still doing it. Oh shit! He's taking the class. He's like, going to be a wrestler in it now. It's going to be like, he's going to break his wrist and not be able to come on tour. No. Who's this? What's that band that broke up and then Keith is the vocalist, and I think it's his brother's a wrestler in AEW now. It's a big band. Oh, Every Time I Die. Exactly. Yes, exactly. So you never know. That might be Pete's future. You know, he's honestly a natural at it. He was doing like flips off the top rope. Really? Just like, holy shit. God damn, man. That's sick. Being independent and funding music videos, where does this come from? Is this all coming out of pocket? Is it coming from merch sales? Is it coming from the crowd fund? How did you guys allot yourselves? Because you've made a few of them for this record already. You know what? We just have been doing them ourselves. Really? And it causes like best of the best. That was $0. Yeah. I mean, other than like, so we bought a camera and a nice lens and some stuff and like figured it out, because like the budgets for music videos and stuff are just brutal. That's crazy. Like in the past, we had a friend, Lindsay Robinson, who was directing a bunch of our videos, and like, because he was a friend of ours, it was like cheap. And he was like, you know what this would cost you if you weren't my friend? They always tell us that, don't they, the friends? But yeah, exactly. And like, he moved to Berlin. He's doing video stuff in Berlin. But yeah, like, it's like, okay, now what do? We don't have a buddy who's just doing this shit for like super cheap for us. We're like, how do we do this? So anyways, we ended up just buying a camera, buying a lens, figuring it out, editing videos, just doing it all.
That's very impressive. It's all in house. You guys are just crushing it. Another band that I interviewed, and I'm sure that you've hung out with them, and I'm sure you've asked some questions, is Lords of the Trident.
Oh yeah,
crushing independent band, and I'm feeling a lot of similarities of you guys doing so much in house. Have you hung out and spoken to Fang? I can't remember his full name. Fang.
Yeah, we haven't had a chance to. We've wanted to play the I think it's the Mad with Power
Fest,
yeah, but it's like the weekend it's on. It was always like it's like we're gonna be on tour or like we're gonna be in Europe or something like that. So it just like kind of never worked for us, but hopefully we can get over there.
Yeah, you should definitely hang out with him. The way that you guys are crushing it independently and the way he's crushing, I'm sure there's definitely some crossovers and knowledge that could be grabbed there for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun, like learning all of these different things, but it does sort of like wear you down. It's like I'm supposed to be a singer in a band.
Yeah.
It's like I haven't sang at all in like a month.
It's the last thing that we get to do now. Exactly.
Yeah, it is. And we're finally at that point now. Everything's kind of out, and we're like, okay, now we're back to rehearsing and stuff, which is fun. It's like, oh yeah, this is sick.
Oh, I do like doing this.
Yeah, being in a band is cool. Like, it's not all
the goosebumps.
Fucking emails.
Oh yes, the goosebumps, and packing and shipping merch and breaking some guy's vinyl hypothetically. Congrats on the Heart of Music, Continental Booking. You guys have a whole new booking agency team going on. Heart of Music in Europe. And Continental Touring, which is what Cryptops is with, in North America. So congrats on that. So there are, once you're in these pools of people, they're going to find some work for you. So are you stoked to get back out there to bring Ultrapower to the world?
Yeah, absolutely. Like 2023, we played 2 shows, which is ridiculous. Like, I don't think we've played 2 shows in a year for the entire time we've been a band. And it was like, we were so busy with album stuff and it just didn't make sense to tour because it was like, okay, well, the album's going to come out. And we just did a couple, like, we did a show in Edmonton and then we did a Armstrong Metal Festival. So, like, yeah, we're really excited to, like, get back out and do. I mean, hopefully it's not like now we hate it. I'm sure we'll like it though. But yeah.
I had the same thought too when we came back in September after not touring for a long time, and I was like on the bus, and I was like, oh yeah, I love this. Rock me to sleep, like, bus driver
this
man.
Is actually sick.
Rock me to sleep, bus driver man. But
yeah,
it's sick, and you're gonna love it. If you could control, where would you go? What do you want to do? Who do you want to tour with? Lords of the Trident would make sense to me. Unleash the Archers have a new record coming out as well. I can see you guys teaming up. I don't know if you're tired of being pigeonholed with Canadian bands. If you could pick a band to go out there to be with, who would you like to be with?
Oh, I mean, UTA for sure. Like, COVID was brutal for us because we had a tour, a European tour lined up with Unleash the Archers, which we were like, this is going to be great because we did a North American tour with them. And it was sort of like on the edge of them realizing that they were a way bigger band than they thought they were. And we were like, they were like, is this you guys? And we're like, well, that's you guys. We're like doing shows and it's like, oh, this one's sold out. Is that you guys? We're like, pretty sure that's you guys. But yeah, they're a blast. I mean, it is fun to like tour with Canadian bands because everybody's kind of like the same person. Mm-hmm. In a way, it's just like a bunch of Canadians. It's
something that's very important about touring that people don't understand is like you can tour with your favorite band, but just because they're your favorite band doesn't mean that you like the people that are in the band.
Some are like a tough nut to crack.
True.
Like we did that tour with Beast in Black, and there's definitely like a language barrier thing. It's like everybody speaks English, but it's like you don't want to have to speak English all the time, So it's like, I'm not gonna hang out with those fucking the openers or whatever, It's funny because like, that we've definitely toured with bands where it takes a couple weeks before everybody starts to kind of gel and mingle, and then you're like, oh, everybody's cool. But like,
and then it's over.
Anytime we've toured with like Canadian bands, it's just like instantly you're like, oh, okay, we get it.
I agree with that. And it's funny with the first few days of a tour, everyone's on their best behavior. And then within the 5th to 7th day, it's like people's little quirks and identities start to seep out from the perfect behavior because no one wants to ruffle anyone's feathers. Flo was sharing drums with Dylan Marks from Atheist in Europe, and I was watching them do this beautiful ballet of how they were going to set up the drums, because they both set up the drums completely different. And since they're sharing a kit and a cage, they had to sort of each make concessions. And that first night I was like, damn, this is beautiful. They were both being so nice to each other. Just like, oh yeah, man, it's no problem. I could just keep it here. Oh, you sure it's okay like that? Yeah, it's okay. Well, I don't mind if we do, like this back and forth of like making little concessions. And then by the end of the tour, they're like, dude, I fucking hate you.
The way you set up your kid is fucking stupid.
My shoulder
bro.
is so sore because of you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and then like by the last week, there's spiral puking in the bus bathroom.
Yes, in the toilet, people.
Yeah,
only vomit and urine, and if it's chunky vomit in a garbage is even better. I have a Beast in Black story, which is funny. Yanis, the vocalist, is good friends with Christian Donaldson. And we went to this tiny bar called Hell's Bells in Prague in 2019. And we're sitting there and we're drinking beer in this tiny little place. And we turned to the table next to us and it was Beast in Black. And Yanis was like, Yanis was like, Christian Donaldson. And he was like, Yanis. It made no, like out of all, they had like played there the night before or something. And it's the metal bar, so everyone goes there.
Yeah, it's awesome. Those guys are super nice. Like, by the end of the tour, I mean, it was funny. That tour, we had to drop off because we got COVID.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
Yeah, we had like 3 shows left, and it was like, oh, tested positive. You got to go home. And then that was when you had to come home and spend 14 days quarantined, and it was like government mandated. They like would phone you and be like, are you doing it?
I'm home.
It's like, don't worry, bro. I'm in my basement playing video games. Don't worry.
God damn. You guys dropped a beer last time we spoke with Sea Change. Has there been a new beer? Is there a new Striker beer that came out? I made you some beers too, actually, now that I think of it.
That was the last. Yeah, that was the last one, was with New Level Brewing. And then since then I'm ashamed to admit, but I'm on Bud Lights.
You had said that last time too, but it's I think that like the beer that New Level had made you was basically a Bud Light Lime.
Yeah.
So maybe that like
I
sort
think
of
at that point I was still like, I was appreciating it, but not really like fully committed to it. But now it's like, that's my beer now.
Okay, that's okay. If you could make another beer, would you make a Bud Light?
Oh no. Nothing's going to come close to Bud Light, brother.
You got to make a Brawl at the Pub beer. I would like that.
That would be cool. Like a nice stout or something would be cool. The Brawl at the Pub stout.
Yeah. Something that makes you regret tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's funny with the Bud Light. It's more of like, if you drink a lot of them, you won't feel it.
Totally.
It's like, I really noticed it. It's like, as we get older, it's like, man, if I drink like 4 tall cans of craft beer, the next day I'm like, oh my guts
what
are
did I do to
up.
myself? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what do they put in that, man? But I mean, there's obviously a big difference in like the taste and the.
Well, there's a very low ABV too in a Bud Light.
It tastes like anything really.
It's it tastes cold. It keeps you hydrated too.
Yeah, exactly.
You just end up peeing a lot.
It's like a garage beer for sure. But yeah, I do. It's funny. It a lot like the mixes. When you go back to like any beer that's not like a Bud Light, it's just like, whoa. All the colors in my mind from digging, like, whoa, what are these flavors?
Wow, the malt, the hops.
Oh, what was that hops? Oh shit! Yeah.
Where's the syrup and the caramel color? But
yeah. Why do I feel so bad all the time.
One last question. My Fight the Hops question. I ask my guests a short-term goal, something you're intending to accomplish within the next month, the next 2 months. What are you doing right now to fight the hops?
Fight the hops.
That's what I call it. It's my short-term goal question.
Short-term goals. Learn to sing again.
Do you feel like you've forgotten?
Well, I mean, it's an interesting thing. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, like it's a common thing for me. I find that like it's really easy. I use the analogy. It's like a deadlift. It's easy to do it wrong, and if you do it wrong one time too much, you hurt yourself. It's like, oh, I forgot the cues of like, I forgot to like straighten my neck or whatever it is. It's just like, but then you do it for like a whole rehearsal. And you're like, oops, I forgot to like do that thing I need to do, like placement wise or whatever. And so, I mean, I've been pretty obsessed with that in the last little bit. It's now that we're like, okay, we're revving back up. It's like, man, I want to put on a good show. Like when we get out there, we want a Juno.
Yeah, you did.
Can't go out and suck, right? Like people come to your show and be like, these guys want a Juno.
They're going to take that statue and they're going to take it back to the Academy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's my short-term goal is to really and I've been making good progress, just getting back into trying to be the best I can be singing wise.
It's totally the same for me. I just take little by little. It's like working out, and then you add just a song a day until you feel comfortable, and then all of a sudden you're banging out an hour plus set.
Yeah, exactly.
Just crushing it. I believe in you.
With the power of Bud Light, anything is possible.
Last time you were on, I asked you my class wrap-up question. We'll see if anything has changed. It probably doesn't happen to you because you're drinking Bud Lights a lot, you're saying. But every once in a while, you get a hangover. And last time you said something about blowfish. Is this still a reality in your life?
No, I haven't. I ran out and didn't buy any more.
So blowfish was some sort of like powder, a little pill form thing that you would crack into water and then you chug it down.
Yeah, and it works. Like it's great. And it's just like one of those things where you don't think about it until it's too late.
Yeah.
It's like what do you order it off Amazon when you're hungover or what?
It's too late.
That's the last thing you're thinking about. And then you're like, let the good times roll, I'll be fine. And then you get hungover and you're like yeah, I mean, ultimately, the way to avoid the hangover is stick to the light beers. Because I had a rough one. We went to see Vader, which was awesome. Actually, that was an unbelievable show with Origin. Also, crazy show.
In Human Condition too. I would say.
Yeah, and everybody was stoked by the end of the show, and then it was like, oh, hey, shoddy Jägermeister, and then like,
someone over here. Why is it always Jaeger?
Yeah, and then I got it in my head because those guys are from Poland, and we were just hanging out with the Vader guys. I was hanging out with their drummer after, and I was like, man, last time I was in Poland, they got us to do shots of vodka, and he's just like, yeah, like they do that. I was like, you want one? He's like, I guess. I don't even know if he was that stoked on it or whatever, but I was like, I'll buy you one, bro. And then I'm like, give us your best vodka. We'll have a shot of that. And the bartender's just like, what? Like, what do you want? Grey Goose or whatever? I'm like, yeah,
absolutely. Sure, I don't know. Grey Goose. What do you want?
What is a good vodka? I don't know.
Here in Canada, I don't know. There's definitely some good ones from Poland, that's for sure. But I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, anyways, by the end of that night, I was just like, I woke up the next day and it was like the brain drill hangover where you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe this. So, yeah, just stay away from the shots. Stick to the light beer. You'll be all right.
Oh, yes, I've had a horrible, horrible next morning after Cryptopsy played with Vader for the first time. So I've been there.
Oh,
very bad next morning. 2008. I was young too, but it was really bad.
Yikes! Actually, yeah. We played in Poland the first time, and that was probably one of my worst hangovers of all time. That was back to the promoter's house for you know, that's where our accommodations were. And they're like, you guys want vodka or whatever? And we're just like, yeah, totally. And then the next day, it's just like, oh my God, what did we do?
Dry heaves. Dry heaves in the van.
And then it was like, get in the van and drive like 6 hours. And you're just like, oh my God, I'm just trying to not throw up the whole time. It's brutal.
We're living the dream. This is what Juno Award winning musicians do.
That's what you do before, on your way. That builds the character that wins you the Juno.
Hell yes. Dan, thank you so much. Once again, hanging out with me for the third time, talking about life, talking about music, talking about craft beer and Bud Light. But I truly appreciate it. Everyone go check out Ultrapower. It's available everywhere. You're going to love it. Dan, I can't wait to hang out face to face with no one listening.
Absolutely, man.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening right to the end. You know that I love and appreciate that. Man, do I ever love hanging out with Dan. What a truly cool guy, true professional, so smart, so much fun. I want to party with him again. We partied in Winnipeg. I want to do that again real soon. Very cool to hang out with a fellow Juno Award winner. I say that jokingly, but it is cool. Not many people can say that they have won a Juno, and I'm stoked that I'm friends with a bunch of Canadian artists that have. Check out this new record from Stryker. It's a banger. I love that they're independent. I love how intelligently independent they are, how motivated they are. I am stoked to see how much they do with this new album. Massively stoked for the Stryker crew. Can't love you guys enough. Please check it out, people. You're going to love it. Massive cheers, Dan. Can't wait to hang out with you again. The Vox&Hops Metal Podcast is brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcasts. I hope you have a killer rest of the week. I will be back next week with another episode on Tuesday, but until then, remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox&Hops heads.